Oh my god, Facebook. Hurry up. Can we go live now? Facebook, please? Apparently. Yeah.
I'm Anthony. Hey, Phil. Sorry to interrupt. Dave was just saying that you can't be heard.
Oh, cool.
Can you hear
That's
me,
how this
Dave?
works. Whoops. Yeah, so my thing was muted. Uh, so let's just start all over again. Scuffed podcast. Welcome
Just
back to
scrub it.
yeah, right. Welcome back to Canna-Heads ND, episode number 9, your once a week podcast for the latest in cannabis, local and national news. Every Sunday from around 6:30 p.m. 6:45 this time. Typically we go for an hour to hour and a half. My name's Phil. His name's Anthony. If you'd like to support the ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act and reach new heights in advertising, or just support the cause financially, you can go to the Streamlabs link, which is over there. It's streamlabs.com/CannaTalkND, and that will donate the money directly to us. They take a certain portion of it, but it's pretty minuscule, and it's actually a lot lower than it was last week. Um, as well as you can go on our website if you'd just like to find a petitioner in your area. Let me just reset this page because yeah. So this is the petition locator. If you go on ndforfreedom.com or ndforfreedom.org, either one, petition locator button's now up here, so it can be viewed on cell phone as well. So when you load it up, you can type in your zip code. So for instance, I'm in Grand Forks, 58201. You can see that there's 2 people. You click that, and it'll show the way that you can contact them either by cell phone or by calling them or by email. Some of them have two, some of them have one. So there is that. We are a constitutional petition circulating in North Dakota that, if passed, would allow anybody over the age of 21 to possess, grow, and consume cannabis. Six, if they're growing, it would be six plants have to be mature, six of them immature, and it would allow anybody to possess it as well. So if you agree and would like to support the cause, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook that you're viewing this on, the ND Freedom of Cannabis Act Facebook page, as well as on the website. Um, if you'd like to message us, either one works, to be honest. We have email and also the Facebook Messenger. Um, so these kinds of shows, if you like these, long form type podcast deals, you can listen to KRFF Radio Free Fargo on 95.9 on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. with Greg Wilson. If you're not in Fargo and would like to listen a couple days after, it will go up on YouTube as well. So, yeah. Other than that, I think I've covered all of the stuff that I was muted in. Uh, so,
Yeah, you're good now.
yeah. Take two was a much better take than take one. Take one, I was just messing up all over the place. Another
Yeah, you
thing
canned
is,
up.
is look at this cool layout. There's skies and there's leaves and stuff, and yeah. So, uh, that was what I was doing today. um, so we can just kind of jump into this first one, and this one was actually uh, kind of an interesting one in the fact that I feel like I might have an unpopular opinion about this one, but there are nearly 100 cities that are considering decriminalizing psychedelics, and this map shows the cities, or I think some of them, because I don't think there's 100 on the dots here. The thing that I found really funny, though, was that like Minneapolis is in Minnesota. Well, Minnesota is decrimmed, but it's not recreational. So this might be the unpopular opinion when I say this, but I feel like it's kind of jumping the gun. I don't know. What do you think?
I completely agree. I think something that has shown to be like it's shown zero direct harm to humans, and then in the 30s was all of a sudden decriminalized mainly for business and racial reasons. We can't even get that sorted out, and now we want to go right into you know deeply mind altering substances.
Right. Yeah, because like there's a stigma with for smoking cannabis. There's also a stigma for psychedelics. It's kind of almost the same type of stigma. Like you got that whole mind altering stigma, so like people would just think that hey, you're a druggie if you smoke cannabis or something like that. Where like there's that stigma of it, and I believe it's the same for psychedelics. I might be wrong, but I mean there are medicinal values to psychedelics. I know that there's testing with ecstasy or MDMA for PTSD, and I believe it's the same thing for mushrooms as well. Or I'm guessing in this case we're talking about mushrooms. I don't think we're working on decriminalizing acid, but I might be wrong. Let me double check that. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Actually, I was going to look at that myself because we started talking, but I'm like, are we talking just about
Yeah,
psilocybin?
psilocybin. Psilocybin. Yep. And
Psilocybin.
that's in the California ballot. Psilocybin for therapeutic purposes in Oregon. I mean, it has shown some affinity the uh, for like PTSD, stuff like that, for kind of working through the triggers that you have for if you have PTSD. But I feel like that should be done in the care of a doctor. I don't know. Might just be. I don't. I've dropped acid before, and I've never done shrooms, but I've dropped acid, and
Same here.
it it was it was a really good experience. I didn't have any bad trips or anything like that. It was really good. Yeah, we just kind of we went to Applebee's and drank and kind of hung out and talked and whatever, and like things just kind of seemed more interesting to me. And then there was some guy that was really full of himself. That was uh, he was like a radio announcer for like WCCO down in the cities, some sports channel. He was like, "You don't know who I am?" And I'm like, "No, no, not really." But yeah, like that was really the only things I remember from it. But I can see that wanting that openness that I had to talk about anything that's going on in my life, it really did help with that. So I can understand the um, like the therapeutic effects of it. That's for sure.
There's actually a lot of, I can't say a lot, but there's research that shows that psilocybin is very effective against not only depression in the long term, but it's also helpful in the short term with cluster headaches and migraines.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard the migraine one. Yeah, the migraine one. The thing is like the like somebody who gets migraines constantly, and I do quite constantly. Now I'm under medication, so I'm a lot more easier. Like it doesn't affect me as much anymore on the days that I do have them, and if and it's slowed down, like I don't have them as often anymore, where it used to be like almost once a week. Um, for some people, it's even worse than that, but I can see like psilocybin being one of them. There's Botox. But the thing is migraines, they don't really know what causes them. There's really no, like, we know the triggers, but as far as like in the brain, from what I've understood, we haven't figured out what is actually going wrong. We know what like receptor or what nerve center in the brain is being affected by it, but like what like medicine like what chemically happens, there's no evidence of, I guess.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of interesting. I can see it being used for therapeutic purposes for PTSD, migraines, like you were saying. Um, but I just feel like it's just kind of a like you're jumping the gun here. Like Minneapolis, Minnesota doesn't have recreational cannabis, and we're going to go for making psilocybin legal in that state or in the city. I guess they're going for the city. Yeah, it's just I feel like it's just a jump. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I really feel like it's jumping the gun. We need to. This is baby steps, you know.
Yeah. So other than that, there's the we talked about the DEA like I'd say a month ago,
Mhm.
and how they're not being so nice for research purposes as far as allowing grow operations for research purposes. But um, they really jumped up pretty fast, and good on them for that, by the way. So the DEA is finalizing a plan to grow 3.2 million grams of marijuana in 2020, um, and this is for research purposes, which is a 30% increase from 2019, which is good in the fact that it's not only having it grown in, I want to, it starts with an M. I want to say Mississippi is where the
Oh, where
only,
it's federally grown?
yeah, where it's grown for research purposes.
Yeah, it's Mississippi.
Yeah, so in Mississippi, there's a research purposes or research lab that grows cannabis, and then doles out those buds to other researchers in around this country. And the issue is the potency was always low. There was always like people talking like, "Hey, it's only got like 1%." So it's really hard to test like the medicinal values of THC when somebody who needs to be dosed with, I don't know what the actual dosage is for THC as far as like therapeutic and recreational, but like the milligrammage between how much THC is extracted from a plant. If you can't extract enough THC from that, you need more plant matter, which costs more money, and it's just inefficient. So they are proposing to raise the quotas, and this will allow a bigger grow, so the inefficiency costs would go down as well, if it's, not well planned. It also called for 72. Yep, that's a million. 72.5 million. We're gonna call it that. 72.5 million grams of oxycodone to be manufactured. So Purdue is very happy about that. Uh, which last year was. Oh wait, it initially called for it. Now it's 67.5 million grams. Um, for opiates. Oxycodone's an opiate. So it's also decreasing the quota. I don't.
Which Purdue is not going to be happy about.
Well, no, but I mean, a lot of the like morphine, for instance, and all of that stuff is actually from Australia. there's there's actually a lot of stories of people in Australia overdosing, because they go on poppy farms that are producing like plants that have a higher affinity of morphine in it. Like the poppy seeds that you purchase at your grocery store actually is usually grown in somewhere in Europe, and before it's actually imported into the United States, it has to go through a washing process where they run water through it, and get the morphine off of the seeds, because poppy seeds do contain morphine in some aspect of every single poppy seed you buy in a store. It's not going to get you high, and it's not going to make you fail a drug test. But you can buy poppy seeds that have been grown in Australia, and a lot of people have been skirting that whole legal system, and that's how they've been able to get morphine um, purchased, not legal. But as far as oxycodone manufacturer, I mean, if Purdue wants to get some more oxycodone, I'm sure that there's a Chinese lab somewhere that's more than happy to produce it for them. But as far as importing it, yeah, they're probably not happy as far as having to import it. Um, but it will reflect the estimated medical, scientific research, and industrial needs in the United States as far as the amount of marijuana to be grown. That's kind of their estimate, and hopefully they're right. But this demand for research grade marijuana is rapidly increasing as many states have moved to legalize the plant for medicinal and recreational purposes. So there's, drug companies that are hoping to make some money by making up like probably a synthetic compound that you purchase, like what Marinol was.
Yes, Marinol.
Yeah, it's like the cannabis. It's got THC in it, but it has no other cannabinoids in it. So people were like, this does not relate. This is two different things. Um, yeah, and it's weird too with Marinol. Like the one thing that I never understood with Marinol is it was prescribed for pain, but we've already known that CBD it's like one of the things that help with pain. Why didn't they think about adding other cannabinoids to it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that topic of CBD, um, I'm not sure what's wrong with this website, but uh, yeah. So on the topic of CBD, I'm totally messing up the docket. I'm sorry, Anthony. So there's a kind of an issue going on. This website apparently is made for mobile. Fox Business is very good, unless they just want me to see this guy looking at a vial for a very long time. Um, but the FDA had basically said that CBD has the potential to harm you, and harm can happen even before you became aware of it. They kind of wrote a pretty scathing article. Not many people are very happy. There was a lot of misinformation in it. Um, so the it's the fact that the FDA isn't involved in CBD currently, um, is what this guy was saying. Steve Mister, the president and CEO of the Council for Responsible Nutrition, said that based on what the FDA is doing and really not regulating it, it's created an unregulated marketplace. Um, Last week we were actually talking with Faye, and she had said that, we wouldn't mind that regulation because that regulation would actually control, the labeling, how everything has to be labeled as far as the potency, the providing of proof of that potency, the research, the forcing of the actual testing of the plants to make sure that there's no lead or anything like that, anything bad for you in there. It would set up a system of regulation and legislation that would create that like system that everybody has to follow. And to
It
have
it guarantees consistency.
yes, exactly. And the FDA kind of giving the middle finger basically to the industry as far as CBD goes is kind of concerning. This is a federal arm basically saying we really don't care about the people who use CBD. That's basically what that letter said, in my opinion. But um, the so yeah, I don't know. This was just kind of this should have been a light topic. I don't know. Yeah. So uh, just like gonna throw this out there. I spent way too much time on this. I I had the docket had pretty much set up yesterday. Like in the morning, I had set up the docket, and I then jumped into this project, and this
This
project took longer than I very much expected. For anybody who really would care, these
I care.
plants, yeah. So like the leaves are a model, and then I had to make a fern, and then attach the model to each vertice of that fern to make this. um, it's a lot of work. I didn't know how much work it was, but yeah. So excuse me if I'm not super knowledgeable of every single link I have in here. Like I read through them. Hey, this is interesting. Then kind of like read into it just to make sure it's not like fake shit. And then the next day is when I actually jump in, come up with what I think about it and all that stuff. Which, by the way, anybody watching news articles or anything like that, don't need to hear from me, but it is reading a news article is one thing. Logically and thinking cognitively of what you just read is a completely other thing. I very much um, suggest thinking cognitively of what you just read when you do read news, because there's a lot. There honestly is. Yesterday, I saw a news story that there is a beer company in Switzerland that is using sewer water to grow beer or to brew beer. That's fake. It's done around the world. It's called, like the water that comes out of your faucet has been treated. But the way that this random ass website said was basically saying, yeah, they're just taking sewer water, just kind of throwing it through their Brita filter and then pouring it into their beer. Um, Not how that happens. And
Well, and it also goes to say, if any of you come across any real solid stories that we haven't touched yet, or you feel like we haven't had a chance to see, share, please.
yeah, I'm on Discord like 24/7, so if you throw it on there, I'll definitely see it. If you post it in the page, ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act page, it takes me a little bit more work to get there, but if it's a good story on top of that, because that's what our page does, is we post like stories, news stories that are going on about us and around the world or around the nation. So yeah, if you find stuff, Yeah, but please don't post something about what was it? The bounty hunter, Dog the bounty hunter. On Thanksgiving, there was a news story that Dog the bounty hunter died.
Yeah.
Not true. Also, was really weird because the domain was like uh, bbc-america.realnewstv.com. So apparently the BBC just can't afford a website. Is what they expect people to have. So the next one, Joe Biden. I didn't cover this last week. The reason why is getting me on the rant that would be the gateway drug theory. That's a completely different show. That's like a 2-hour show of me just bashing that idea. So during the last Democratic convention, yeah, not convention, debate. That's the word I was looking for. During the last debate, there was a news story that Joe Biden had basically said that, or he actually did say this, that he doesn't believe in legalization. He doesn't believe in recrealization, specifically because it's a gateway drug. He used that whole gateway theory. Pissed off a lot of people. Was completely in the face of everything that the talking points of the Democratic Party was talking about. Pissed off a lot of people, basically. So he did kind of walk it back, and it was kind of a little bit funny. So I kind of wanted to play it. Once I get, you know, that set up. Why? Oh, I'm not looking at this person's tweet. So basically, he did walk it back on some podcast. I forgot. Maybe it was a radio show. He did say that. Well, let's just go with what the audio is. So let's listen to what they said once I get the audio boosted correctly. All right, here we go. Oh, why isn't it? What? Okay. Technical difficulties hour with Phil today.
I gotta say, it's been 2 weeks since I've done this, and
Yeah.
it worked out. This is working out a lot better.
Right? You'd think so, right? We'll call this, yeah, that. Why is... Okay. So I want whatever comes out of here to go there. Okay.
Hey, Megan.
There we go.
Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us on this call. This question is for Vice President Biden. You've gotten a lot of criticism since your town hall in Las Vegas, where you said that there needed to be more research into whether marijuana is a gateway drug to support legalizing it recreationally on the federal level. That is, as you know, support legalizing recreational marijuana. So I'm wondering if you were wrong to
Are
suggest
we
that
listening
pot
or
might
something?
be a gateway drug.
Well, I didn't. I said
Oh.
some say it's a potway drug. Pot was a gateway drug. But what I said was, and I've been talking about this for some time now, anyone, first of all, should be totally decriminalized, number one. Number two, anyone who's been convicted of an offense or using pot, their record should be wiped totally clean, completely clean, so they don't even have to, if asked if they've ever been arrested, they will not have to say yes. Anyone who has been wrongly imprisoned for consuming pot, in fact, should be released immediately, their record wiped completely clean. That has been my position and and continues to be my position. With regard to the total legalization of it, there are some in the medical community who say it needs to be made a Schedule II drug so there can be more studies as not whether it is a gateway drug, but whether or not it, when used in other combinations, when they have a negative impact on people overcoming other problems, including impact on young people in terms of brain development, a whole range of things that are beyond my expertise. Except there are serious medical folks who say we should study it more. Not that we shouldn't, not we should make it illegal, that we should be in a position where we criminalize it, but that we should just look at it. And I constantly am pointing out that Donald Trump picks fiction over science. Well, there's enough serious scientists who say, let's give us a little more chance to actually study it. And that's what I've said. But I don't think it is a gateway drug.
Phil, check your audio.
Wow, I really need to just have a button that just mutes and unmutes. Okay, so what he said there is completely the opposite of what he had said on the uh, actual debate, which was a couple weeks ago. He did use the words gateway drug in that sentence. He did a politician answer, and again, you're a politician, you should do politician answers. But I always completely tune out whenever somebody says first of all, or first of all, it should be actually decriminalized. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm going on this train of thought, but before we go on to this train of thought, I want to say this other thing, and then you say that other thing, and you just continue going on that other thing. That's when I completely am like, you're full of shit. You're backing out of what you said before. You're basically trying to manipulate the way that somebody is listening to you and changing the way that you want them to completely forget that you are going on one train of thought and have completely sidetracked. You want them to forget that you're sidetracking, and then you just want to continue with your statement. And that kind of maneuver just, yeah. So basically, this was a week after he had said that he opposed legalization in part because marijuana might be a gateway drug, which again, like I was saying before this, having the whole gateway drug thing um, is completely a different show altogether. Um, and okay, OBS render delay. Okay. Um, so just completely walking that back, and the way that he had said it, it pisses me off. Um, and Potway drug, yeah, okay, that's funny. I'm gonna say that that's hilarious. Like the what a lot of news goes against Trump for is the fact that he can't spell his own name in tweets and misspells things and tweets and all that stuff. Um, Having Biden have that nomination like that would also create the same confluence where you got the other news media, we're gonna say Fox in this case, saying that he Biden can't even say the sentence correctly. He can't even say gateway drug. He says potway drug. Like he can't speak. Blah blah blah. It's the same attack would be done if Biden did get the nomination. It would just be done on Fox rather than CNN. Um, that's just kind of the media relate. That's the news that people apparently like, is to make fun of people for spell check. What I feel like a lot of these news organizations should really be focusing on is the fact that Twitter doesn't have an edit button yet. But that's completely sidetrack. Yeah. So let's see here. We can just kind of close it out with this last story. Again, sorry I don't have all the stories here, or like the whole hour. It might be a little bit short of that, but um, the no, actually, there was that story. We could do that one too. we'll see. We'll see where we go. So the Canadian marijuana industry, some people not super happy about it. Roughly 1 year ago, um, is when cannabis was legalized. I think it was a year ago.
I believe so, yeah.
They entered the year with 800 cultivation, processing, and sales license applications in a backlog. So they were working through that. Um, they did go through them, but it took around 341 days to approve it. Which, I mean, is almost a year. So right now, there's probably that backlog is probably still being worked on. So yeah, basically the whole backlog of it is, and the speed at which that they're processing the applications was slow, in that the illicit market, the drug dealers that were still, taking in and overpricing cannabis and not really knowing what they're selling, and feeding into like other illicit organizations that might be selling other drugs as well. They were able to thrive during this time because people who, were smoking before this got legalized, they still, wanted to go the legal route, but their legal route wasn't there. They were basically kind of sidetracked and were able to, the illicit drug dealers were able to sell cannabis without paying taxes on it, and that's kind of where the issue is governmental wise. And the fact that they were in a backlog, I can understand it, but at the same time, it should not take 341 days to approve an application.
No.
But yeah, so basically, it created a short-term problem. At the end of the day, if it's taking 341 days to approve licenses for sale and cultivation, yeah, those drug dealers were able to benefit for those 341 days, but you best believe that on 342 day, the day that that shop opens up, they're about to be losing a lot of business in their area that they're selling in. Specifically because there, in that case, you know what you're purchasing. You can ask questions because, you can ask a drug dealer questions, but that person probably just Googled it and is going off of any kind of science that they find on Google, which isn't wrong most of the time, but it can be wrong. So those kinds of questions, are answered very correctly. There's kind of like a canned response in most dispensaries like that for the basic questions, and it also allows for those businesses that when they do get licensed to pay taxes, and that kind of influx with taxes is what is going to help the country as a whole, and it also will help even people who have problems with cannabis. There are people who, for one way or another, again, unpopular opinion, this might be an unpopular opinion hour, but there are some people who are addicted to getting fucked up. It's the short and truth of it. Whether it be alcohol, whether it be cannabis, whether it be opiates, or methamphetamines, there are people who are poly users, I think is how they're called, where they are just kind of wanting to get fucked up. Those people should be smoking cannabis before they should be drinking, shooting up heroin, or shooting up meth. That's the safer alternative. And the tax incentive for the money, the taxes that come in from licit sales. Is it licit? Like, not illicit, illegal. Legal sales. Let's call it legal sales. Yeah. Legal sales wise, it makes it so that that money can be added to people who do have issues, whether it be from alcohol or anything else. And their science can also, they could do studies on figuring out, is cannabis good for opiate withdrawal, which it is. Not physically, it doesn't really do too much physically, but it does do stuff mentally, and it does help with the cravings. Um, so that whole entire study and everything like that, the only way that that happens is if there's money. And the only way that there's money is if it's taxed as far as the sales of it. And the fact that they didn't, they had a huge backlog of applications. They, were taking so long to approve them, that's lost money to them. And I think they're very knowledgeable of the fact that they fucked up in that case. But, yeah. So, other than that, yeah. I'm gonna
This is
say
definitely getting feet wet again, getting back into this.
yeah, yeah. So like last week we had Faye. We're kind of having that, circulating the guests thing. So it's actually really helpful that we're circulating guests. If you want to be a guest on the show, obviously there's not much of a requirement. So feel free to reach out to us. Also, if you have any questions in regards to ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, like the petition, or any questions as far as any of the specifics of the petition, it's only a page long. There's really not that that much covered, but it is sometimes confusing to read like legal documents. This was prepared by a lawyer, so there's not really much legal ease in it, but it's scary when you read legal stuff. I am usually very I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is. Intimidating. Yeah, it's very intimidating to read legal documents. So I can definitely understand people having questions. Again, also, if you want to be a petitioner or anything like that, definitely reach out to us. You can also print out a petition on the website. So why don't I just load that up? So if you
One thing I'm curious about, you may have the answer to, is one of the petitioners has to be the one to notarize it. Correct?
So the notary is done by your bank or anybody who hasn't signed the petition. So the notary, go to your bank. If you have a bank account.
Oh no, what I meant was like circulator. So how I'm one of the listed people on it, do I have to have it notarized?
I believe so. I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure. That is a very good question, actually. Yeah, by the way, Anthony right there is one of the sponsors.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't make it in time to be a sponsor. Otherwise, I totally would have been. That, and I also have a legal background, so I probably wouldn't have been a sponsor, but, whatever. But if you want to get the petition here on the website, ndforfreedom.com, ndforfreedom.org, either one, you can click Measure, which will lead you to the measure page, and then you scroll down to full language, and this will show you the full language. If you just want to read it before you sign it, you'd set up like an appointment to sign with somebody, or you're planning on stopping by any of our businesses to sign. You can definitely read beforehand, what you're going to sign. That way you kind of, if you have any questions, you can definitely ask them then. So if you want to be prepared, but also you can print this out, by clicking the print button. I'm not going to do that because it's going to show my printers and stuff, my network. So the you hit the print button up here, and it'll show you'll be able to print out the petition. This is the one that's directly from the Secretary of State. It's just a localized copy of it. So you can definitely print this out, and it's completely legal, I promise you. And yeah, you print this out. Even if you get like 1 or 2 signatures, if you have a couple buddies, you're in a location that there's not many petitioners, or that person isn't going to be really traveling to any of the businesses or any of the cities that might be around them that have petitioners, you just want to drop by and have them sign. Even if you get like 1 or 2 signatures, it is just as good as getting 60 signatures. There's no limit of how many signatures you can get, and there's no minimum of how many signatures. If we get a packet with 1 signature, we're just as happy as a packet with 60. So don't feel pressured as well. If you're a petitioner as well, don't feel pressured to fill out that entire packet. It can be very, very anxiety-inducing going out and asking people that you don't know to sign a piece of paper. It's especially when it has to do with cannabis. So that kind of thing we definitely understand. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So stay in your comfort zone. That's what I'm trying to say. Other than that, thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week on the Canna-Heads episode 10. But till then, Fargo, if you're in the Fargo area, Radio Free Fargo, which is 95.9, sorry, 95.9 KRFF Radio Free Fargo, which is Greg Wilson's show. It runs from 4 to 5 on Thursdays. So if you want to catch up till then, you can definitely show or listen to the show there. You can also listen to it online when it's streaming. I don't know if it's archived online, but the archive is on the YouTube channel. Which, by the way, I'm really, really trying to get 1,000 subscribers. We're only at 160, so please, if you can, please subscribe. It's free. There's no charge. YouTube.com/CannaTalkND or /C CannaTalkND. The link's in the description. YouTube.com/C/CannaTalkND. By the way, YouTube is a wonderful platform and I love everything about it, but there are certain things like that /C thing, kind of annoying. Other than that, thank you guys very much. This has been Canna-Heads ND episode 9. Very, very poorly set up.
Much better than the previous ones.
The layout is good. Yeah, and
I dig it.
I only messed up muting and unmuting my mic twice.
It's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had catastrophic failures. My Skype has crashed.
Yeah, the
Couple
Skype,
times.
your Skype video hasn't changed at all either. Like that's, I should definitely.
Windows sucks.
Hey, you want to know what I just realized this entire time?
What?
Look down here. You know those plates?
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna ask you about that.
There's supposed to be names down there. I promise.
Well, we're happy to suck for you guys, one step at a time.
Oh, and you know what's even stupider is I have the source in there. I just didn't turn it on.
Next week.
Thank you
Make this
guys.
happen.
All right, bye. All right, give it a minute to